webinar. We have two Googlers joining us today, actually. Ravi Kumar is a PM on the Cloud Identity team, and Emre, who is an engineering lead on the endpoint management team. He covers things like context-aware access policies and mobile device management features. So 3 of the features that came out last week were part of his team. So he'll be joining us for the Q&A session, and Ravi will be going through the presentation with us here shortly. Also, thanks for joining the Workspace Admins kind of community and mailing list here. We're running these events at least once a month on various different topics, all related to Google. And if you haven't signed up yet, I think almost everyone here has signed up. That's kind of why you guys are here. But if you haven't met the team, so the team that comprises of the Workspace Admins is myself, as well as Dominic Kugelman. Dominic, why don't you say hello and introduce yourself and the next person you want to introduce in the team?
Hi, yeah, I'm currently trying to host 2 meetings because we have miscommunicated the URL originally. So, but yes, I'm the originator of this, and I'm happy to have so many people here joining us. And thank you, Ravi, for doing this to us, to us maybe. And thanks everyone else. And Kim is doing the live stream over to YouTube. So we will only see a short introduction from him, I guess. See you later. Thank you. Have fun.
Okay, let's see if we can get this. So if you want to see me, I have to put this camera on. Hey, to get the sound right, I have to do my own audio through the phone. OBS and episode streaming. I have it on. YouTube should be live. And hopefully the rest will be fine and we don't have any interruptions with Meet. Bye for now.
Yeah, and I'm Brian Kim, Service Delivery Manager with Strata Prime, Google partner based out of Toronto. Yeah, it's nice to have Ravi here with us today. I've seen a lot of his demos that he's done either publicly or I guess internally with Google. So Ravi, thank you again very much for taking the time to join us to kind of show us the features of cloud identity today.
Perfect. Hey, thank you so much for joining. Hello, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know we have Workspace Admins joining this session from all over the world. Thanks for joining, and hope you're all keeping safe. My name is Ravi Kumar. I'm a product manager focusing on cloud identity. And I also have Emre, who's the Eng manager who focuses on endpoint management and security. So reducing AD dependence is one of the top questions that we get from many organizations. I've been having these conversations for several years, and in fact, like my team has helped many customers take through the whole journey of helping them reducing the AD dependence. So I'm going to share a step-by-step approach in this session that many organizations are currently following to reduce dependence on AD. So from the agenda perspective, so we'll start with a quick overview of why many organizations are still thinking about like reducing AD dependence. I'm going to keep this segment very short because the fact that you're all here says that you already have some challenges, you've seen those challenges, and then you want to get a better way of reducing it. And then we'll get to the solutions part. I'll start with a quick overview of cloud identity, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page, because many of the features that we're talking about, they're part of the cloud identity. And then we'll talk about a couple of popular features that many of the customers use to reduce AD. So we'll focus on secure LDAP and also enhanced desktop security for Windows. So we'll talk about how these features work, and you'll be able to see some cool demos. And then you will also see some of the deployment scenarios and then some of the deployment watch points, so that after this session, you are armed with enough knowledge to kind of start preparing are planning for those things. And finally, we'll wrap it up with the step-by-step journey that I was talking about, the journey that many of our customers are taking to reduce AD dependency. All right. Okay, so let's start with discussing how we got here. Most companies may have started deploying Active Directory services when they started deploying, say, some of the Microsoft solutions like MS Exchange or other offerings in the past. Most of those solutions, they are dependent on AD as a critical piece of infrastructure. So because AD supports LDAP, many IT admins saw as an opportunity to start integrating the rest of the third-party applications or internal applications into AD. Although it solved the problem at hand back then, these AD systems became very, very complex, right? So I was talking to one of the IT admin in a very large company a few weeks ago. So he was talking about how they spent about 3 to 3.5 years consolidating their 200 plus domains and then several forests into like 2 forests and then like a dozen domains. It's very complex. So they still have like hundreds of AD servers, like domain controllers, read-only domain controllers, global catalog servers, replication rules, load balancers. For those of you who saw AD very, very closely, you know what I'm talking about. So overall, this is too complex, right? It's complex in setting it up. It's complex in managing all these servers. And it's way complex when you think about upgrading this infrastructure from one Windows version to another Windows version. Often these are like multi-year projects because you're talking about hardware upgrades, backups, disaster recovery, and things like that. It's also very costly to maintain because there's a cost associated with physical AD servers and AD CALs and server licenses. And on top of that, generally, most people, they use third-party tools to support AD, like alerting systems or management systems on top of AD and reporting systems. And what about security? So if you're following the news, we hear about like every month, like you hear about like one big data breach, right? So and many other security threats all the time. The bad players are getting sophisticated every day. But unfortunately, AD is designed about, like, and also the other legacy LDAP directories have been designed like decades ago, when none of these threats were an issue, right? So luckily, modern identity systems like cloud identity has been designed ground up to deal with these kinds of threats. So although the technology has come a long way, what we see is, unfortunately, many companies are still having many of those legacy directory servers. Luckily, like for those companies who are relatively new, you don't have to deal with AD and you can quickly jump into the newer identity systems. So you're good there in most cases. Okay, so now let's get to the solutions part. So I'll give a quick overview of what cloud identity is, and we'll dive into the meat of the conversation. Cloud identity is an identity as a service and also an endpoint management system in one single offering. So it has all the key capabilities that you normally see in IDaaS, like user lifecycle management. So you can bring in the users, groups, and other directory objects into Google using the sync tools. And also we offer automated provisioning of these user accounts into third-party applications. You'll also see application management and single sign-on. So we support SAML and OpenID-based single sign-on, but for those of the applications that are legacy web applications, which doesn't support any of these SSO standards, we have something called password vaulting that allows you to get that single sign-on experience. And then other app management capabilities like LDAP, secure LDAP, we'll talk about that later. When it comes to device management, you'll be able to manage Android, iOS, Chrome devices, Jamboards, and Windows devices, all in one single console. And then we'll wrap it up with security features like MFA and context-aware access, beyond CARP, reporting, analytics, security dashboards, and then APIs. All right, so now let's dive a little bit deeper into the two popular key features that I talked about in order to help with AD reduction. The first capability is the secure LDAP. It's an LDAP as a service, right? So think about it as a giant LDAP directory in cloud, with an exception that you don't have to set up these LDAP servers. You don't have to upgrade it. You don't have to maintain it. It's all done for you, right? It's a managed SaaS service. So what it does is it takes your existing Google directory and turns into a giant LDAP directory in the cloud, so that you can, all your applications and devices, appliances, those things can point to the LDAP directory, the Google LDAP directory. And the best part is there's no user change management. They still see the same kind of like the login screens that they are familiar with for all of your applications. All you have to do is you get into those directory settings and you point the application to Google LDAP instead of other LDAP servers. When it comes to deployment scenarios, so this is a simplified version of the IT landscape. So you might have a lot of these legacy applications, could be internal applications or maybe third-party applications, IT infrastructure like VPN or Radius servers or NAS storage servers, or even the third-party print management servers. A lot of customers are moving away from Windows print management into third-party print management solutions like PaperCut, PrinterLogic. And also you have these desktops, right? So Linux and Mac devices. So you can tie all these things into a cloud identity as an LDAP source for authentication, authorization, directory services. It looks and acts like any other LDAP directory. And another very popular deployment scenario is the IaaS, right? Many of the organizations are slowly moving towards cloud, and generally the first step when you're moving to cloud is you take these existing legacy applications and then move as is into VMs, into the IaaS infrastructure. But when you move these servers into IaaS infrastructure, you also generally set up Active Directory servers, not one, not two, generally a lot more, right? Depending upon how many applications you have. So you need disaster recovery. You need, if you have offices in multiple regions, you might need to kind of add more Active Directory servers. So what you're doing here is you're taking the entire complexity that you currently have on premise, and then you're moving into cloud. Again, so using LDAP, so you can simply point those applications. You can still do the lift and shift of these applications into IaaS, but you can simply point those to the SaaS-based service, secure LDAP, instead of bringing in and installing those Active Directory servers. You may have some Microsoft applications like SQL Server or other things that you are putting in IaaS. For those applications, those applications doesn't support any standard LDAP servers, right? So they have a hard requirement of having Active Directory. So for those reasons, you could use the service like Cloud AD as part of Google Cloud Platform, which is a managed AD service. All right, so let's see how to get started. So let's suppose you're ready to pull the trigger and you wanted to take some or all of your LDAP applications. So there are two ways to starting on this journey. The first one is you prioritize, pick applications that has an immediate business need. For example, you're setting up a new site, you're throwing in some LDAP applications, and then those applications require some LDAP servers in that site, right? So So instead of like setting up new LDAP servers, you point those applications to secure LDAP so that you don't have to incur that additional cost. Another way to approach that is you have a comprehensive initiative, and then in order to migrate all your LDAP applications. So in that case, the first and foremost thing that you need to do is you start inventorying all your applications that are talking to your Active Directory or LDAP servers. So this is very important. It sounds very simple, but when you actually roll up your sleeves and start doing this, in many organizations, you see that it's not a quick thing, right? So it's a time-consuming thing because unfortunately, there's no one single screen in AD where you can say like, hey, give me the list of all the applications that these applications are talking to AD, right? Often, many of our customers have told us these are these long spreadsheets, and it's not even one single set spreadsheet. Like in many cases, probably these are fragmented spreadsheets managed by multiple IT administrators or application owners. So now you need to start reaching out to them and then collating that information. If you're one of those companies where IT controls all those applications, probably you have like one single place to go. Anyway, so the next step is categorizing those applications. You categorize those applications, whether it is currently using LDAP protocol or a non-LDAP protocols, like some of the legacy protocols like NTLM, or maybe Kerberos-based applications. So once you categorize those, you start talking to your business application owners to see whether those non-LDAP applications do support LDAP protocols or not. Very often what we see with customers is, especially with third-party applications, most of the third-party applications, they support multiple protocols for authentication or authorization. So check those non-LDAP-based applications and see if it supports LDAP, and then sit down with your security team and application owners to see if it's a good fit for you to move to LDAP-based authentication. And then you prioritize the application based on the ownership and then how soon you want to do a specific application because of your business needs. And then start piloting a couple of applications. Configuring LDAP applications to use secure LDAP should not take that long. So it's probably like about 15, 20 minutes if you know what exactly you're doing. So pilot that, make sure things are working fine, and then start preparing plans to migrate your rest of the applications to secure LDAP. All right, so before going into the next topic, I'd like to show you a quick demo. So when you go to your G Suite console, and then you can click on Apps and then LDAP Apps. You'll be on the screen, so you'll be able to see the entire list of LDAP applications that you have configured in your organization. You click on Add Client, and I'm adding a client called PaperCut. It's a print management solution. And then continue here in the access control section. So you can decide whether this application is used by your entire organization. If that's the case, you can select entire organization. Or if this solution is used by only a subset of users within your company, then you can include certain organization units, or you can also add inclusion groups and exclusion groups. You do the same thing for reading user information. So if this client needs access to read your entire directory, so you select entire domain. If not, you select a subset of organizational units. We are getting ready to launch something called Secure LDAP Custom Attribute Support. So in addition to selecting the OUs, you'll also be able to select whether you want to expose custom attributes or not. This is coming very soon. And then you'll be able to decide whether you want to expose your groups. So what this page gives you is very granular control on how much of your directory is exposed to these individual LDAP clients. And then you add LDAP client. And then within a few seconds, we'll generate a digital certificate. And once you have a digital certificate, you download the digital certificate and you go to the LDAP client's screen. So this is the admin console for PaperCut. You enter the domain details and you upload the certificate and then you save, right? So in some cases, the configuration screens might look slightly different. So you may have to type in host name and things like that. But we have a detailed documentation on how to connect the various types of LDAP-based applications in our documentation. All right, so now let's look at the next topic, enhanced desktop security for Windows. So this is something that we've launched sometime in Q1 of last year, which allows you to manage Windows 10 devices. It also allows you to log into Windows 10 devices using Google credentials. In addition, it also provides a layer of security, additional security on top of your normal Windows login, because it offers security features like multi-factor authentication and session timeouts and other security features that you inherently get when you use Google for logging in. So EDSW includes two key components. The first one is Google Credential Provider for Windows. I know it's a mouthful, GCPW in short. And the second part is the Windows Device Management. So the first part is used for login and associated actions. So let's look at the first part now, GCPW. So GCPW is a small executable that you can install on all your Windows 10 devices. And once you install and reboot, the user will be able to log in using Google credentials into these devices. And once the user logs in, users will get a seamless SSO experience when they access web-based Google services or desktop Google services like Meet and Drive file stream. And also, if you are using Google SSO and then tying your other business applications through SSO, you will be able to access all those applications without having to enter credentials. It also synchronizes passwords for you. We will discuss a little bit more about password synchronization a little later. And then it automatically enrolls your Windows 10 devices into Windows management as soon as the user first logs in using GCPW. Okay, now let's look at a quick demo and then we'll get into the deployment scenarios and then the watch points for GCPW. Okay, so once you install GCPW and restart the device, login screen will look like this, very familiar, no major changes except the fact that in the middle of the screen you will say sign in with your work account. When you click on that, you will be able to see the Google login page. You enter your Google credentials and you also enter your multi-factor authentication. And then while you're logging into the device for the first time, so we do two things. The first thing is we are creating a new device entry in the device inventory part in the admin console. So we're pulling hardware information, OS information, installed applications, that entire information for admins to see what's in the inventory. The second thing that we're doing here is automatically enrolling this particular device in Windows management. Again, this is an optional, so if you want, you can disable automatic enrollment. And then once the user logs in, the user is able to open a Chrome browser. User is able to access Google services without entering any credentials, and then now the user is trying to access one of the single sign-on applications, in this example, Asana. In addition to the web-based applications, you can also access these desktop Google applications. In this case, a Drive file stream. It's the first time user is logging in, so a user need to answer OAuth grants, and then the user is able to access their Google Drive without adding any credentials. So if you look at that, the entire user experience is very, very seamless, very similar. What we've done is we made the whole login process very, very simple, because like many of our customers have told us, they like what they do in Chrome, and then we're trying to get your login experience as simple as Chrome for you on Windows 10 devices. Oh, so I'm talking about Chromebooks, not Chrome, sorry. Okay, so now let's zoom in a little bit and see what's happening behind the scenes when the user is logging in. In the first step, so the user logs in, you all see that. And then next, when the user successfully logs into Google, GCPW automatically is logging in the user into their Windows profile. So you can decide to use an existing Windows profile. We'll talk a little bit more in the next slide, or you can use you can ask GCPW to create a brand new user a Windows profile. In either case, it's using Google password and the local or AD account as user credentials to log into Windows behind the scenes. And then once the user is able to log in, GCPW is also automatically logging in the user into Chrome. It does two things. The first thing is if you have any browser policies, so it automatically pushes all those browser policies to you. And B, by logging into Chrome, you also get that single sign-on experience that we have just seen. Okay, so now before you start deploying GCPW, you have to make some key decisions. The first and foremost, you need to make sure that you have Chrome version 81 or higher, and I think the current latest version is 88, I believe. So I think most of you should be okay there. We support Windows 10 Pro, Business, Enterprise, or Education, and version 1803 or higher. The first thing you need to make a decision is whether you want GCPW to create a brand new account, starting from clean slate. We've seen customers who are replacing Active Directory going this route, or you can associate GCPW with an existing profile which is already there in order to reduce friction for end users, right? So when you do that, users are able to log into their existing profiles, which means they have access to their existing data, applications. If you have any AD resources like print servers, file servers, all those things will be accessible. So no changes from an end user perspective. So if you want to go down this path, then all you have to do is you have to signal to us that you want to use this path by creating a custom attribute and populating that custom attribute for your users with the information, with their Windows profile information, whether it's a SAM account name, if you're using the AD credentials, or the local profile username. The next thing that you need to decide is where you're going to do password management. So if you are using, or if you'd like to use password management within Google for your reset passwords and change password operations, then when the user logs into GCPW, we will automatically change your Active Directory or local Windows profile passwords. The other option is if you're currently using Active Directory for password management, then you can continue to use Active Directory, but you need to make sure that you install Google Password Sync so that those new passwords that you change in AD are flown to Google to make sure that the GCPW experience is seamless and you see the single sign-on effect there. Okay, so we talked about the first part in EDSW, the login capabilities. The second part is the Windows device management. Here, you'll be able to go into your admin console and enable certain Windows settings that will be pushed automatically to your devices. This is very similar if you're using MDM functionality in Workspace. In addition to setting these Windows policies, you'll also be able to do inventory management. You'll see that in action in a couple of minutes. And then you'll be able to do admin actions like wiping a device, unrolling a device. You can remotely sign out. You can block the device and those admin actions. All right, so let's see Windows management in action. So again, here's the cloud identity and Google Workspace admin console. You get to devices from here. And once you are in the devices, we'll start with the inventory. So you click on endpoints, and you'll be able to see the entire inventory of your mobile devices and also desktop devices. And if you want to see the desktops that you're managing, go to management type and try to apply a filter. So if you, for any reason, if you're using GCPW only without Windows management, you check this box. Or if you're using Windows management to manage your devices, you check this box. And then you'll be able to see all your devices here. So I'm opening this device. So you'll be able to see a bunch of information here. So the device information, OS information, hardware information, when you have last synced, encryption status, and also the most important thing is like the installed applications. You'll be able to see all the web applications or the Microsoft Store applications and Win32 applications that are installed on this particular device. And then using block device and other actions here, you'll be able to perform those admin actions that I'm talking about to wipe the device and other actions. All right. And the next thing is setting device settings, right? So you go to settings and Windows settings. And this is where you will be able to enable Windows policies. It could be security policies, personalization policies, things like account settings, where you'll be able to set, decide whether the user should get a standard user account or a local account. Who else should be on that? Administrators on that particular device. You see Windows update settings, BitLocker settings, and many of those settings. So using this interface, you will be able to set approximately 900 to 1,000 settings. If you don't see a setting in this particular interface, for example, if you want to disable camera, we don't have a specific field that talks about disabling camera here. For those settings, you go to custom settings, and then you can click on add a custom setting, and then I'm saying, say, disable camera. Then start typing in camera. You'll see the entire list of settings that we support here. So I'm setting allow camera, and then I'm setting a value of 0. And now you might be wondering, like, hey, how do I know this? What's the OMA URI value is and what's the value is? What we've done is we have compiled a long list of these settings that are very common. Most people use it. So we've you have a help article here. You'll be able to find all that information here. So you'll be able to see the OMA URI and the values here. And if you don't find a specific setting in this common settings help article, we also have links in our help documentation that point you to Microsoft documentation, which provides detailed information about all the 1,000 plus settings that you can configure. All right, so I'm clicking on next. And you can select whether you want to apply this for your entire domain, or you can pick one or more organizational units. And then you apply here. And once you apply this, it will immediately start pushing out this setting to all Windows devices that are connected to network. And for those devices that are off network, when they get on the network, they will all get these settings. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to show is reporting. You will be able to see all the device audit logs here. You'll be able to see the entire list of your devices and what kind of settings that we are pushing, whether that setting has succeeded or not, and a lot of information here. And you'll also be able to create custom alerts if you want to watch for certain things. All right, so one of the key advantage in using the cloud-based Windows management solution like this is traditionally, if you look at the traditional Windows management solutions, you need your users to go and connect these devices to your corporate network in order to get all these Windows settings, right? But the problem is every day, like you're seeing, like more and more remote users who may not come back to office like for days or weeks, or with these exceptional situations like COVID, right? So where the users are not going to work for several months or maybe a year. So how do you handle all those things when you're not connected to network? So if you have an important security setting that you want to push, how do you do that? So these cloud-based Windows management solutions like this, all it needs is the internet connection. So if you have a device that can connect to internet, as soon as you connect to internet, we start pushing those devices, all the settings that you have enabled. Okay, so here's some of the key things to keep in mind. First, you decide how you want to enroll your devices into device management. There are two ways. One, use GCPW. It makes your life a lot easier because it automatically enrolls all these devices when the user logs in first time. The other option is to do manual enrollment, or you can write provisioning scripts. One watch point you wanted to see is that if you have an SCCM client, there's a known issue where you will not be able to enroll your device into Windows management. So look for that SCCM client if you're not able to enroll your device. Then you get to configuring the Windows settings that you've just seen in the admin console, and then you enable the enhanced desktop security service for your entire domain or for certain OUs. As soon as you do that, we start pushing these device policies every 3 hours or whenever you update your Windows settings to all your Windows devices. And then if you're doing some testing, so you'll be able to manually sync to the on-demand sync of using your Windows 10 device. All right, so here's the deployment scenarios. So we recommend you to use GCPW and Windows management together because that's what gives you the best experience for both your admins and users. But for whatever reason, if you want to use GCPW or Windows management as standalone, so we also offer that capability. All right, so we've learned quite a bit about Cloud Identity Premium features. And so if you are a Google Workspace customer, depending upon which Google Workspace edition you have, you will see a subset of these features are all the Cloud Identity Premium features. So it's bundled, those features are bundled into your Google Workspace. So if you have a Workspace edition that is at the lower tier, where you don't see all these Cloud Identity Premium features, you have two options. You can either upgrade to a higher tier, or you can simply add on Cloud Identity Premium Edition on top of your Google Workspace. For those of you who don't have Google Workspace and who'd like to get these identity or device management capabilities, Cloud Identity is also available as a standalone service. All right, so now we've talked about secure LDAP, Windows, and a bunch of other cloud identity features. So now let's put all these things together and see the step-by-step journey that I was talking about some of our customers are taking. So this is, again, a simplified version of how your infrastructure looks. On the left-hand side, you have a bunch of things, devices, IT infrastructure components, applications, all those things pointing to Active Directory. So when you deployed Google Workspace, so the first thing probably like many customers do is you install GCDS in order to synchronize all those Active Directory user accounts and other directory objects into Google, right? At this moment, you're only using user management and group management capabilities within Cloud Identity, which is, again, so bundled into your Google Workspace. So by doing this, you were able to eliminate the Microsoft Exchange or other legacy productivity features that you already have, so shown on the top right here. So the next step is you start integrating your web applications. It could be SAML, OIDC, or other web applications. Start integrating those things so that you can think about retiring your on-premise SSO solutions like ADFS. The next step is to start further reducing Active Directory dependence, right? So by looking at all those on-premise applications and LDAP-based applications and start integrating with secure LDAP. And you can further reduce AD dependence because like Windows and LDAP applications, those are like one of the top very large workloads on your Active Directory. So start offloading the Windows management and also those domain joins and then users logging into AD, all those kinds of things using the enhanced desktop security for Windows. At this stage, there are several customers who have told us they were able to completely replace or at least drastically reduce dependence on AD. So some customers have told us they've retired servers, they've retired many user accounts within AD after integrating with EDSW. And then we've also seen some customers going one more step forward and start retiring their Windows file servers in favor of using Google Team drives. So at this moment, you may be asking, like, so do you still think you can completely eliminate and replace the entire AD infrastructure with Cloud Identity? My answer would be it depends, right? So it depends on how you're using Active Directory and what are your Active Directory use cases. If you're using Active Directory only for the services that we just talked about, so there is an opportunity to replace your Active Directory. But at the same time, we've seen many customers who also use Active Directory. They have say, legacy applications like NTLM applications, or if you have Kerberos-based applications, or if you have other Microsoft solutions like AD certificate services or SQL Server or other things which do not work with any generic LDAP directories. For those kinds of things, you need to keep Active Directory around. But does it mean that then you don't need to actually get into this journey? Absolutely not, right? Because you haven't built this Active Directory in one day or in a year, right? So it took several years for you to build this Active Directory. So don't expect that you will be able to switch off the Active Directory within a month or even within a couple of months, right? I think it's a journey. The most important thing is to start picking the most used workloads like LDAP applications and Windows and other workloads and start moving to cloud so that if you have, like, say, 100 Active Directory servers, by the end of this journey, probably you'll be able to reduce and shrink your Active Directory to, say, like 5 or 6 servers, right? It's still helps you like in reducing your cost and most importantly, significantly reduce your complexity.